shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But Ian, this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you?
Shut the fuck up, okay? Shut the fuck up!
Welcome to the Rod Uncensored Show. I got a special guest, Ryan, Lina. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, pretty good. It is Lina, but nobody ever gets.
Sorry.
Nah, you're
sorry.
good. No, nobody has
God.
ever gotten it right on the first time ever.
God damn, I'm sorry about that.
No, you're fine. I actually, there was a time period where I just changed my name to Lina, because everyone kept getting it wrong, and then somebody was like, "Don't do that." I was like, "All right, fine."
So that's your real last name?
Yeah, the real last name is Lina. Yeah, it's
Wow,
not a stage name or anything like that.
Okay, people, me, I got my stage name because I was like, man, I don't want to embarrass my name.
Sure.
with my amateur level comedy, I don't want to embarrass my last name. But man, who is Ryan?
I'm just a dude, a goofball, a guy trying to, survive best it can in this wild world that we call the planet Earth, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded way more philosophical than I intended it to be.
Sound like real George Carlin like. How you trying to go with it?
I hate to compare myself, but I would definitely say that Carlin has a big influence on me and kind of like my my comedy stylings, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, the way I think the thing that was always great about Carlin is he could, just by changing the inflection of a word slightly, he could turn a sentence from not funny to funny.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I tend to do a lot of with some, certain words.
My favorite joke about him is talking about when he got his friends that die and he deletes them off his phone records and stuff like that. And he sends emails to him. He said, I got to delete this guy off. It was the craziest shit to think about. Deleting somebody out your phone and your email list is crazy.
Yeah, it's
so you know what I mean. He definitely he's definitely one of your biggest influences, or you have any other influences comedy wise?
He's probably up there. Greg Giraldo is probably one of my bigger ones.
Man, I never heard that name in a long time, man.
That guy is one of my. So it died way too young, but man, because I remember when I was because I was probably in late middle school, early high school, and he was kind of at his peak. And I just thought he was the fun, because his comedy is so it's smart, but it's also dumb at the same time. And I think he's just he walks that line so well of making it an approachable thing, but also really intelligent at the same time. He's definitely up there as one of my bigger ones for sure. Christopher Titus as well. None of my styling is like Christopher Titus whatsoever, but I think as a comedian, I think he's probably one of my favorite people to listen to. He's always really funny.
So I see some of your stuff. I think I seen you at the Riverside Pub a couple times, just sitting back there, just writing notes like an evil genius. What is your writing process? I ask everybody that question because everybody got a different style. I see firsthand of people like Bam. He writes bullet points and just couple words and stuff like that. What is your writing style?
I'm kind of I try to write a joke a day, which when I say a joke a day, I mean it's a concept of something that I think is funny, and 90% of that stuff just ends up kind of getting thrown out. I never use it at all. But yeah, so then when I have that general idea, I'll normally take it on an open mic, in front of 4 people and just kind of test the water, see if there's something funny there. And then if I think that there is, that's when I take it home and I fucking I refine and refine. I'm one of those people who fully believes that every single word in a joke is important. I mean, there's not, and I critique myself sometimes because I worry that it comes off too robotic sometimes, whichever people tell me that it doesn't. But I sometimes I catch myself on stage. I'm like, man, like I've literally told this joke with the same exact inflection so many times. But I think whittling it away and kind of cutting the fat and trying to find exactly what is funny after you have like a general concept of an idea is probably what I do the most. I think like that's probably what I spend 90% of my time doing.
So man, I seen some of your stuff. I think it was a clip or something. He was talking about your mom trying to hook you up with chicks and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
that
Like,
was that's actually the first joke I ever wrote, believe
oh
it or not.
really?
Yeah, and
Jesus
that
Christ.
it's the only joke from my original set that exists. Pretty much everything else got thrown away, but that joke, it's so fucking stupid, but it always lands like
Because
every
it's
single
relatable.
time.
Do
Yeah,
you think
I
since it's
think
relatable?
so. Yeah, I think it's a combination of it's relatable because like all my style is always very set up punch, set up punch. So like I start off with the joke is like I've been single so long my mom is trying to set me up with every person in existence, and that isn't like that's not the punchline at all, but that concept is kind of funny, so that gets people on board, and then I kind of twist it into something that's just so out of this world ridiculous, but at the same time that because like the fun the punch of it is she goes up to me now and she's like, ooh, she works at Wawa, you like Wawa, and like I'll like really like drag it out depending on stage. And my favorite is I get like really down low and I make eye contact with somebody in the front row, which is always a really fun time. But yeah, it's like I think that comedy is finding things that people relate to, but also finding the things that are absurd about them. Like the world is pretty weird when you think everything is absurd and strange when you actually like sit down and think about it. But at the same time, we all experience the exact same stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah.
So, like, how did you find your voice? How long did it take you to find your own voice? And uh, because I see a lot of people where I can see automatically they're influenced by Mark
Yeah.
Norman or they're influenced by, you know what I mean? So how long did
Yeah.
it take you to refine yourself and said, there, I'm gonna be Ryan?
I think honestly, like I don't think I would like I always got a decent amount of laughs, but I never think that I actually found myself to be funny until I was like probably 5 or 6 years in.
Mm.
Um and it's kind of like I would emulate like I when I first started, I kind of like I wanted to be Robin Williams, and then I also wanted to be Louis C.K. And after, doing those things, it's like, okay, like this is funny. I can, emulate the bare minimum of what those guys are able to do as far as like, how they deliver lines and stuff like that. But it's not authentic and it's not like it's not you can tell someone's a cheap ripoff.
Mhm.
Like I think a lot of times when we see people on stage, we can see who they're trying to emulate. And I think people don't really become funny until they realize that the best comedian is yourself with the volume turned up a little bit. Because that's like I'm myself very much on stage. That's the same exact guy that you would talk to.
Mhm.
Just big old goofball, silliest goose.
So how many years you got total in right now?
I am just crossed the 8-year threshold.
Jesus,
So yeah,
that's a lot of seasoning right there.
yeah, it's weird. I was talking to, I mean, obviously you probably know Thez. We were kind of joking about when I first started, uh like Thez did comedy when I was like a kid basically. And I grew up going to some of his shows. So whenever I want to, I'll always tell him, I grew up watching you, man. um But yeah, it's something that's kind of neat is a lot of the people that I started with have kind of fallen off. And it's kind of cool watching like the cycles of like, okay, like the young comics, you know, the guys who are up and coming and they're still grinding and trying to hit 7 mics a week and stuff like that. And, you know, obviously I'm too old to do that now. Yeah.
So like I don't got the chance to hit 7 mics, you know, because I got a family.
Oh,
I got like one and maybe two. Like,
I mean,
like hear me.
when I first started, I did that. And I try to tell, like, if anybody asks me how to get good, I tell them I other people are going to tell you a different thing, but I'm not a believer in you got to grind, you got to get out there and you got to go eat a dick at 5 open mics a night. And you got to, you know, go up there and you got to get on stage as much as possible. I think that burns you out more than anything. I think in order to become good, I don't think it matters how many mics you hit. I think it's more about like putting in the work outside of actually being on stage. That's 90% of it. I mean, you know, when you're writing jokes and stuff like that, you really have to craft outside of on stage. You can do a lot of stuff when it comes to writing on stage, but you can't do the most important stuff, you know.
And
Yeah.
I think you really, like I told everybody, it's like you really don't get really a lot of things out of open mic except for work. You know what I mean? The stage time,
Yeah.
because comedians gonna look at your stuff. They already know you're trying to make them laugh. You know what I mean?
Right. You
The
know.
audience, when it's a paid gig or a competition,
Yeah.
they're there to laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of like when it comes to like performing comedy for comedians find some stuff really funny that the regular crowd doesn't find
Yeah.
that funny.
Mhm.
Like if you go up and you make like I always talk about like jokes about depression crush at an open mic every single time. But you know, you do that in front of a real crowd, they're kind of like, that's not what I'm here to see, you know.
Yeah.
Or like I I used to, well, I sometimes still do run like a joke writing group.
Mhm.
And like one of the things that I wrote was talking about like um creating a jury of your peers is kind of weird because my peers are all comedians. And we started like all riffing back and forth talking about like these goofy inside jokes, inside baseball stuff that you can do about with comedians. But if you did that in front of and you'll crush with an open mic with that. But if you do that, you know, in front of a paid crowd, they're just going to be like, what the hell is this? You know?
And
Yeah.
especially I found out the hard way. You can't make cancer funny. You can't make
Yeah. There's,
it's domestic violence. You
yeah.
get you all. They come out with the brooms and pitch axes. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I think because I'm a big proponent of I think anything can be funny, but I think like you have to be really careful when you're doing that stuff. You have to make sure that that joke is like really, really well structured and prepared,
mhm.
and like you are nailing every single inch of it has to be earned. Because if not, a crowd is just gonna be like, "What the fuck?" Like,
Yeah,
you can't. Yeah,
where's the joke?
yeah, oh, yeah. Real
I hate that
jokes. Yeah,
shit. Where's
yeah,
the joke at?
yeah.
You gonna tap dance for me? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? All that shit.
it's
Oh,
crazy.
so man, how long did it take you to? Because you do run a show, right? You do
Yeah,
run
yeah,
shows,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like what?
We've been running the show at the Abingdon Grill now for we just had our 2-year anniversary, which is pretty cool to think about. We're probably one of the longest running rooms in Maryland right now, which is wild to
Wow.
think about. You know, other than like Magoobies and stuff like that, obviously. But like as far as like independent comic run rooms, we're definitely up there. There's not that many long lasting ones right now, so yeah.
How did you get into? I always ask everybody, man, because
Yeah.
to run a show with anybody or running
Yeah.
room is it's a lot of taxing thing with the I just talk to people about dropping out.
Yeah.
Sometimes this person might not be good enough for the show. And like how do
Yeah.
you know what I mean, deal with the comedian's egos and picking the lineup with your like without a, because
Yeah.
you're gonna make somebody's asshole bleed. You know what I mean?
Oh
By
yeah,
telling
I
them no.
mean, like, I'm pretty good. Like, and I tell comics, like, I'm always honest with you. If I think you need to work on stuff, I'll tell you what I think you need to work on beforehand. Um, I'm not strict on material, but I tell everyone, hey, like, it's a dinner show. If you go up there and just make 9 cum jokes, it's not going to hit, like, or I'll be honest with people. And like, if somebody asks me to, like, hey, can I get booked? A lot of times I'll tell them, yeah, like I'll have you up, or I'll say, hey, I need you to work on this before I can, contemplate, because it's a paid show. People are paying money to see you, um, and we have high standards. It's not I don't let just anybody on on the mic. And also, I mean, there's so much that goes into running a show, because it's you got to handle people's egos. You got to make sure everybody gets paid. I mean, I tell comedians, you guys are gonna get paid before I get paid. That's just how I work. A lot of
Is it
bookers aren't like that.
because you are a comedian? That's why you look
Well,
at it
that's the
like that,
thing.
right?
Yeah, I mean, like, we've all been in those situations where we're on a show that has 100 people there, and you get $5 and you drove 2 hours, or um
Yeah.
yeah. So like, I think being that I'm open and I'm honest about anything that anybody asks me about stuff. I think that that's always really helpful. I'm also really big. I try to make my room diverse. Um, I get really annoyed sometimes because I'll see a bunch of lineups that are, it's 8 straight white guys. That's,
Looking like
you're going to get, and then it's like, oh, the same 6 people are getting booked every single show at this room. It's but I also think that is what makes the room successful. Is people will come out and see you once, but if they come out and see the exact same show twice, they're not going to come a third time.
Mhm.
So people know that this show, you're getting something different every single month. um so yeah, I think there's so much that goes into it. And I'm really big on trying to grow the comedy scene in general. And that's kind of the reason I started doing it, is because I want people to see, this is like a really cool thing that I think people, anytime they come out, they enjoy it. So I like to try to grow that and get people to, come out to stuff.
So where do you think why do you think it was a boom in Harford County for comedy? I didn't know it was a scene till
Dude,
I
I
looked
mean,
online.
it's the thing is, like, people in Hartford County, because before I ran this show, I kind of ran like spotty shows. Like, I've done stuff at Looney's, I've done stuff at Black Eyed Susie's, I've
Mhm.
done like stuff all over the place. And the thing is, Hartford County, it's a lot of people with disposable income, and also it's people who there's nothing to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
So people see a comedy show and they're like, oh, that'll be a fun, we'll go out and give it a shot. And what's frustrating is restaurants don't understand that, because,
Mhm.
like, even though it's different than doing, like a music show or something like that. Like,
Mhm.
when it's given the opportunity to do it, people in Hartford County want to come out and see shows. They like that, it's fun. And I think everyone likes comedy shows when it comes down to it, for the most part.
Everybody want
Um,
to laugh.
that's the thing. Everybody wants to laugh all the time. It's a it's a tough world sometimes, you know. And
Yeah, it definitely is.
yeah, people want to have fun. That's what it comes down to.
So how did before you start running your show, how did you get, what I mean? Because I know you was around where it was not a big thing. You had to a lot of people had to go to Baltimore and
Yeah.
DC and like how did you get your first opportunity uh on an actual show, not an open mic? How did you get your first
Like an actual show, you're
opportunity?
talking about, like,
Your
well,
actual
my
show.
my first, like, show I ever did was actually I did the Magoobies new competition thing.
Or the Bringer Show.
Yeah, the Bringer Show, which bringers are bringers. I actually respect that one a lot. I think Andrew does a really. I haven't done it in recent years, obviously, but when I first started, he gave you time, and really, I would kind of just like I would do it, and I would send him, like, hey, like I would email him constantly, be like, hey, do you like what do I need to improve on? I want to actually be booked to perform here. And then after that, it was pretty much just, when I do open mics, making sure that I do well and making sure that I kind of know who's who are the people who are booking stuff. And really asking, man. I mean, people talk about, like, I think Bam was telling me, because like when I first booked him, he was like, yeah, I always want to do the show, but I hate being that guy to ask. And I'm like, man, if you don't ask people, there's 100 people out there who want to be booked for comedy. You gotta ask. And like, if 9 people turn you down but one says yes, that's a show.
That's what
you
also
get
what you
to
call
do it.
told me.
Yeah.
Byron Brooks.
And
He told me
Byron is a great example of that too, because Byron gets
he
booked
told
a
me
lot.
he said he'd be hitting him up in the DMs. So don't forget about me.
Oh my God, yeah, dude. Like,
Don't forget about me.
you have to be annoying, but like, coming from a booker's perspective too, it's like, shit, like there's people that I want to book, but I just forget. Hell, I book people and I forget that I booked them sometimes. Shit happens. But I think asking and being a presence when you're there, you really can't. Like, I'm not like the most sociable guy, but when you go to like mics and stuff like that, I'm not saying you got to be the center of attention, but you do have to go out of your way, introduce yourself to people,
Hey, Ryan, want some cheese fries?
Yeah, that's what you got to do, man. You got to, and I joked about it before, but it's true. Like, when you run a show and you book people will book you back. It's not, I wish comedy was just about who's the funniest, but I mean, it's a business full of a bunch of folks with egos, and I got an ego too. We're just a bunch of egos feeding other egos.
Exactly. And that's why I got my first opportunity. I've been doing it since April. I got my first show in DC.
Hell yeah.
Because I've been networking, you know what I mean? Just putting my clips out. Man. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. My opportunity was in DC. I said, guess I got to make it happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's really what you got to do. You really do have to just, anywhere and that's what I, when I first started, it was literally like, okay, anywhere. I'll never say no to a show. And then, now I can say no to shows. Not that but I not every show is an opportunity for me now. But when you first start, man, they really are, just to get stage time and to meet people and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, man, what's your thoughts about? I ask every comedians that been in the game for a little bit. What's your thoughts about guest spots?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're fine. Everybody wants to headline, everybody wants to feature, but I mean, not ever. There's only 2 of those a show, and time is time. Because my thing is, if I'm not headlining and I'm just doing a guest spot or I'm just popping up somewhere, that gives me a little bit of wiggle room to kind of, I might throw a new joke in here and there and stuff like that. But also it comes down to like who you're performing for. Cause one of my first opportunities was getting a little, 5-minute guest spot at Auto Bar. And, I just got to headline it a couple of months ago. Ooh. Because on those 5 minutes I did well, and Mike always remembered me. And when I kept bothering him, he had something that he remembered. Oh yeah, this guy did well, like I said, it all really depends on context, but I'm certainly not against him. I remember I reached out to book somebody and I just said like, hey, like it's like my featured headliner booked, like I got a guest. It's going to be 10 minutes, come up, do 10 minutes, still get paid. And he was like, I don't do guest spots. And I'm like, Man, you've been doing comedy for 2 years. Like,
I look at it. As you know, what I mean, everybody's trying to build the resume, get the credits.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know?
hey. So when you have zero on there, you can't be really like, what the fuck you
Yeah.
gonna ask for? I want Kevin Hart money. That's crazy.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
like, yeah. I
That's
mean,
rude.
it's like because there's I'm a big fan of just doing showcases in general,
Mhm.
getting a bunch of people good time. But like, yeah, and showcases or guest spots are ways to build up your material, build time. Not everybody can do, everybody thinks they could do 15 minutes until they're up there and they've spent they've
They
spent
blow
their
that wad. They
material.
blow
Yeah,
that.
they blow their wad in the first two, and then all of a sudden you're done. I remember when I first started, there's a room up in Hanover. It's the Church of Satire now,
God
which
damn,
is
you
a
drove all the way up there?
fantastic. Oh hell yeah, dude! Well, when I first started, and it was called the Sound Room, and the Sound Room they had a weekly show every Thursday night, and I would go up there, and it was me and two other comics, and they said you can do 15 minutes, and I had been in comedy for about 2 months, and I would just go up there and eat shit for 15 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But when you're first starting, time is time, and you go up there and uh you learn how to sit in silence, and you learn that you don't want to do that, so you better get good quick.
That shit hurts when you just eat shit though. It's like
Yeah.
it hurts. It's
So
like
good, man.
it's like watching your girl make love with another man, and you sitting
Dude,
there
it's
in the
yeah.
corner.
I'm lucky. I don't normally do, like, I haven't, knocked on wood, I haven't bottomed out in a while. I normally, like, my jokes will at the very least get a like I haven't just had like absolute silence, but like I've definitely had shows where I'm like, fuck man, that was bad for me. Like I can do a lot better than that. And there's sometimes where it's just like, it sucks when you hit him with your A game, and it's like, you're delivering, and you're hitting your spots, and the night before that set worked perfectly, but then tonight for whatever reason you're just getting crickets, and it's like, there's no worse feeling than that, man. There's no worse feeling.
So, what is your preparation when you get on the stage? You got to show what things you need to do before you get on the stage. Do you listen to your tape and say before you get to the venue? What is your
Mhm.
process to get prepared to
uh
do stage
i
time?
I do a lot of stuff the night before, really. I like to know how much time I'm going to be doing. And then I'll have my set list pretty well written out. Um, I don't know why people are against bringing a notebook on stage, but I always do. I mean, if you go to see Led Zeppelin, they have their set list written down, so like I have that, but I just making sure that I know, pretty much from like joke to joke exactly where I'm going to go in a set, just so I have like a guideline. I can always stray from it a little bit, the crowd work and stuff like that. But knowing exactly, like, having a roadmap, I think I always have that prepared probably the night before. And then I kind of just I listen to more upbeat music as much as I can. I normally, I'm a God guy, so I do say a prayer. Um, and that's pretty much it, man. Like oh, and then when I get on stage, I always check my zipper. That's the first thing I do.
So do you ever, what I mean, when you're on the stage, have you ever ad-libbed anything in your jokes?
Oh yeah, of
Add
course.
something
Yeah,
to
yeah.
stretch the thing out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll if I have like a different idea for like a tag and stuff like that, I'll throw them in there. I think like ad-libbing can a lot of times can create some of your better jokes. Like a lot of times if an ad-lib hits, I end up trying to write that into the set. Like a great example, I have a joke about it's not going to make any sense in this context, but being pegged by AOC. And I like joke, like, I'm like, you want to. And then when I ad-libbed one time, I said, this is like a weird Oprah moment, like, look under your chairs. And, doing that ad-lib just crushed. And now it's just a part of the bit,
Wow.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I think it's important to, I have a structure of exactly where I need to go, and I know exactly how every single joke is supposed to go. But also, like, if a crowd is really digging one joke, you can kind of keep, building on it a little bit. I think something that a lot of young comedians do is they'll tell a joke and it hits, and then they're like, oh shit, I got to jump to the next one. Which a lot of times the better thing is to kind of sit in it and, continue to riff off that premise that people are really liking, or like, just sit in that laughter a little bit, repeating and stuff like that. Like, those are the things that's not really ad libs, but it's also like, this is stuff that you're it's all about, making the flow of the show go better,
So have you ever looked at some of your earlier stuff and said, damn, this Ryan is not nowhere close to this motherfucker now?
Dude, my first show, like, me and my friend Dan Caper, who he doesn't really do that much comedy anymore, but he's one of the funniest people I've ever met. We joke that every comedian, when they first start, goes through a suit phase where there's like a little bit of time where you wear a suit on stage. Like, everyone has done it at least once. And I think like my first 3 shows, I had like a suit jacket on for some fucking reason. And like, I can't even watch those first sets, man. Like, because it's not like, they're not terrible, but it's a lot of like, oh God, I would never tell that joke that way now, or like I would.
So you're pretty much auto-correcting your joke while watching it.
Well, yeah, I record every single set and I dissect every single line and I say, okay, why didn't this work? Why'd this work last night but not this night? Stuff like that. I think that's important. But also, I'm not a masochist, so I don't, listen to really old shit that I used to do where I'm like, oh, that's not even a joke, Ryan. That's just saying something in a funny voice. Like.
So before we get out of here, man, what advice would you give somebody that wants to try comedy or pursue it? So what advice would you give to an upper-comer or somebody who want to try it out?
2 things. If you haven't done it already and you want to do it. It's fun. Even if you suck, it's fun. Somebody who wants to get good, though, I give this advice to people. This is the advice that I was given that made me actually funny. And it's something that bookers look for. People you submit to festivals look for this. The time between joke setup and punchline has to be as short as possible. Like, my tight sets, I will actually time not just the set length, like, okay, I know I can go 10 minutes, but also I know exactly how many seconds this joke is going to take before it hits. And you want that time between jokes to be, if you can get it under 12 seconds, you can actually be good. You can make, some people say shorter than that, I always say you can't have a setup that's more than 15 seconds long. At least when you're first starting. If you have people like, if you're doing 30 minutes and you're doing like a little break in between, that's one thing. But if you have 5 minutes on stage and you're taking a minute to set up a joke, you're going to lose them. They're not going to have the best time and you're not going to capture the energy. And all that has to do with work off stage. That's the stuff that you're putting the time in afterwards. That's the stuff that you're not going to be able to work that out on stage. But giving yourself that repetition and saying, timing exactly the amount of time that you have between a punchline, that's the best advice that I could ever give anybody, is make sure that that's as short as possible and cut out unnecessary words, because you're gonna and stammer on stage, even though I still do it sometimes. But you know, you don't need unnecessary words in any type of a joke setup. Every single word in your setup should be leading to that punchline. That's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, and you heard it from Ryan, man. Let the people know what you got coming up.
Yeah.
Social medias and all that.
Pretty much everything is at Ryan Lina is funny. I should know my Blue Sky. Find me on Blue Sky because I
don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is.
It's like old Twitter. I had to finally quit Twitter, man. I couldn't fucking do it anymore. I was like, this is horrible. Yeah, but just add me on Facebook, Ryan Lina, RyanLina. I'll promote all my stuff there. We're at the Abingdon Grill. Normally, we're the last Saturday of every month. We're different in November and December because of the holidays, but come check us out, man. It's fun. And then March 15th, I will be doing my full hour special recording for it'll be at the Havre de Grace State Theater. March 15th. I'll send you the link. Maybe you can put that up there. But yeah, that's the big one. It's called The Silliest Goose. So
what made you come up with the title of that before we got here?
Yeah. I have a punchline where being a silly goose is the punchline. And I think being a silly goose is kind of what I am.
Are you going to put the special on YouTube or how?
Yeah, that's the plan. Is what I'm going to do. I'm going to record it, everything like that, and with distribution, I'm probably going to put it on YouTube. But I'm gonna have like a donation thing if anybody wants to chip in. But it'll be free for anybody who wants to see it afterwards. That's my dog.
So that's good, man. How long did it take you? How long did it take you to write the special, man? Before?
Oh, pretty much my 8 years.
God,
yeah, I've been writing it since I started, man.
But all right, man. Please go check out Ryan, man. I appreciate you coming on here, man, talking, man, because it's hard to find people to come on your podcast just to talk comedy, man.
Man,
I had one comedian ask me, send him $500 to come on for 30 minutes. so I said, "Are you going to do a set or something for me? Like what? Like
God.
Working with comedians, even to get them on the podcast, is crazy, man."
Yeah. Well, I'm always down, man. This is fun. I love doing this kind of stuff. So
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Sorry, my dog.
Night, man. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. Take it easy. Have a good one.